There's a kind of connection that doesn't just touch your heart. It pulls at your body, your breath, your thoughts. It feels like being seen and consumed at the same time, like standing too close to a fire you know could burn you, yet you can't step back. And before you realize it, you're no longer asking if it's right. You're only wondering why it feels so impossible to leave. Why is it that only one type of person survives a narcissist? And it is never the kind of person you expect. The strong often break apart while trying to fight them head on. Those with perfect boundaries simply walk away before the deeper lesson even starts to unfold. Jung explained that the unconscious chooses long before the mind can truly understand what is happening. A narcissist does not attach in a random way. They lock onto a specific nervous system, a specific history of endurance that fits their pattern perfectly, like a key sliding into a lock that was always waiting for it. But here is the part that almost no one tells you. The survivor is not the most confident or the most self-aware person. The survivor is the only one who carries an alchemical ability to turn the narcissist's poison into their own strength and power. This message reveals why you were chosen, not as a victim, but as someone being pushed into a painful kind of awakening. Stay until the end, because the exact trait that pulled them toward you is the same force that will one day break their control completely. You were chosen by the narcissist because your early life trained you to tolerate what others would instantly reject and walk away from. The narcissist does not choose a partner based on love, connection, or deep emotional bond. They choose based on usefulness and function. They are searching for a very specific role to fill in their life. When they look around a room or scroll through a dating app, they are not searching for the most attractive or the most wealthy person. They are searching for the one with the highest capacity for emotional effort. They are searching for you, but why you out of everyone else? What did you show that gave them a signal to move closer? You showed subtle, unconscious signs of someone who carries old and unhealed emotional wounds. More specifically, you showed the wounds of the caretaker, the one who has always been there for others, no matter the cost. Carl Jung explained that the unconscious mind expresses itself through our actions and behaviors in the outside world. You may think you are simply being kind, attentive, or a good listener who cares about others. But to a narcissist, your behavior communicates something much deeper than that. It tells them that you are trained to place the needs of others above your own truth and reality. This kind of training often begins in childhood without you even realizing it at the time. If you grew up in a home where the adults were emotionally immature, unpredictable, or distant, you had to adjust yourself in order to survive. You learned very early that to feel safe, you had to become useful to others. You learned how to read the room carefully. You learned to scan the faces of your parents to understand if they were angry, upset, or distant. And then you shaped your own behavior to manage their emotions in that moment. If they were angry, you became quiet and careful. If they were sad, you stepped into the role of a listener or even a therapist. This is a survival response known as fawning. It is the ability to push down your own fight or flight reaction and instead become pleasing, calm, and helpful to whatever feels like a threat. You learned that the only way to move through chaos was to take it in and try to neutralize it from within. Imagine a child watching their mother slam drawers loudly in the kitchen. Their sibling may run away to avoid the tension, but this child walks closer instead. They offer help, they try to lighten the mood, maybe even make small jokes to change the energy. At just 8 years old, they already understood that calming someone else was the only way to feel safe in that moment. Many years later, the narcissist can see that same pattern in you almost instantly, without needing any explanation. This wound often shows itself later in life during moments that appear small or unimportant on the surface, You might be on a first date, sitting across from someone you are getting to know. The waiter makes a small mistake with the order. The person you are with reacts with a sharp or slightly harsh comment toward the waiter. Someone without this history would feel uncomfortable and see it as a warning sign. They might even say that the reaction was unnecessary or decide there will not be a second meeting. They judge the behavior clearly as something unacceptable and move on without overthinking it. But you do not respond in that way. Instead of judging, you try to understand what caused it. Your mind quickly starts making excuses for them. You think maybe they had a long or stressful day. Maybe they are just particular about certain things. Maybe they did not mean it in a harsh way. I should help them feel more relaxed. You smile, you shift the conversation, and you try to smooth over the tension that just appeared. Without noticing, you take emotional responsibility for their behavior and carry it on your own shoulders. The narcissist watches this very carefully. In that moment, they recognize something important. They see that you did not hold them responsible for their actions. Instead, you moved into a role of fixing and managing the situation. They realize that you are someone who will work hard to gain their approval, even when they have not earned it. They see a person who is used to walking carefully, always adjusting, always trying to keep peace. This is exactly why they chose you. They need a container for what they refuse to face within themselves. The narcissist carries deep internal shame and confusion, but they avoid feeling it directly. They need a partner who will carry those feelings for them. They need someone who will worry when they disappear, who will cry when they become distant, and who will try endlessly to solve problems that were never theirs to fix. They need you to hold their shadow without realizing it. You were chosen because you are strong in a very specific way. You have an incredible ability to endure discomfort for long periods of time. You can go weeks without your needs being met, and still you stay. You can be insulted and still try to communicate calmly. You can be ignored and still try to reconnect again and again. To the narcissist, this does not appear as love or loyalty. It appears as ease and convenience. What they never understood is that the same wound that made you easier to use is also the reason you become impossible to fully break. Your endurance was never weakness. It was strength hidden inside loyalty. They chose you because of your wound, but you outlast them because of your inner strength. Here's the part that may hurt, but it needs to be understood clearly without avoidance. Your empathy, your kindness, and your patience were slowly turned into tools against you. These qualities are beautiful and rare, but without clear boundaries, they can become harmful to you. The narcissist did not fall in love with your true self. They were drawn to your trauma response. They saw someone who would not leave easily, no matter how painful things became, because that person believed love requires suffering. But seeing this truth is the first step toward breaking the pattern that has repeated for so long in your life. This is not something to wear as a badge of pride. It is a sign that you have been repeating a wound that started long before this relationship ever began. You are trying to save them in the same way you once wished you could save your parents or caregivers. You are trying to become good enough to finally receive the love you were missing. The narcissist depends on you staying unaware of this deeper pattern. They want you to believe that you are simply a kind and caring person, but you are more than just kind. You were trained to put others before yourself, even when it causes you pain. And what is learned can also be unlearned with awareness and time. This is why only one type of person survives them. Not the strongest in appearance, but the one who was shaped to carry what might break someone else completely. If something inside you shifted while hearing this, if an old truth began to rise quietly within you, stay with that feeling and do not ignore it. In the next part, you will understand another reason survivors remain. There is a hidden biological pull that makes danger feel strangely familiar, almost like something you have known before. You stayed with the narcissist because your nervous system confused their chaos with something that felt like home deep inside you. And the reason you feel stuck is one of the most misunderstood parts of this kind of emotional experience. You did not stay because you are weak. You did not stay because you enjoy pain. You stayed because your system was trained to recognize chaos as connection and confusion as something close to love. You stay because to your nervous system, the pain feels like something familiar, something that feels like home even when it is hurting you deeply. People often describe the start of a narcissistic relationship as intense, magical, or even destined in some way. You may have said things like, "I felt a spark I have never experienced before," or "It felt like we had known each other for many lifetimes." You read this intensity as proof of a deep soul connection, but you need to shift this view completely. What you felt was not a soul connection at all. It was your nervous system recognizing a pattern it had already learned long ago. Carl Jung spoke about the imago, the inner template we carry of the love we received when we were children. If your first experiences of love were chaotic, inconsistent, or based on conditions, your mind wired that chaos into your understanding of love itself. You learned that love is something you must fight for constantly. You learned that it comes with anxiety and uncertainty. You learned that connection is always followed by distance or withdrawal. So, when you meet a narcissist and they begin with intense attention followed by subtle distance, your body reacts strongly. It recognizes the pattern and responds as if it already knows what to do. The anxiety you feel in your stomach, the butterflies, the constant nervous energy is not excitement, it is fear. But because you have confused fear with love for so long, you move toward it instead of stepping away. It always starts quietly, almost in a way you cannot clearly see. You are dating someone new. For a few weeks, they message you every morning. They send you songs, they tell you how special you are, they make you feel seen in a way that feels powerful. You feel elevated, almost like you are on a high. Your brain is filled with dopamine and anticipation. Then suddenly, without warning, something changes. One day, they do not message you. You wait, you check your phone, you wonder what happened. When you finally reach out, they reply hours later with something short and distant. A person with a secure sense of self would notice this and feel turned off. They would think that this behavior is inconsistent or even disrespectful. They might lose interest quickly, but you do not feel turned off. Instead, you feel activated. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, and your focus shifts entirely onto them. You begin checking your phone again and again. You reread old conversations to see if you made a mistake. You try to adjust yourself to become more interesting, more engaging, more appealing so that you can bring back their attention. Their withdrawal triggers something deep inside you, a survival response that pushes you to chase the feeling you had before. You are not just chasing them, you are chasing the emotional reward of their return. The narcissist understands this pattern on an instinctive level. They operate through a cycle of reward and withdrawal. You begin to believe that the loving version of them is their true self, and the distant version is just a temporary phase. You tell yourself that if you are patient enough, the person you met at the beginning will return again. Jung described this as the compulsion to repeat, the unconscious drive to revisit our original wounds in an attempt to resolve them. You are projecting your unmet childhood needs onto this person. You are hoping that this time, the emotionally distant person will finally choose you, finally stay, finally give you what you were missing. You are not just connected to a person, you are connected to your own past. This is why it feels almost impossible to leave, even when you clearly see the truth. Your logical mind understands what is happening, but your emotional system is locked in a repeating cycle. You become attached to the rise and fall, the stress and relief. A calm and healthy relationship may even feel empty to you because it does not create the same intensity. You mistake peace for boredom and stability for lack of passion. This realization can feel heavy, but it is necessary. You have to stop calling it passion and start recognizing it as dysregulation. The pull you feel is not destiny guiding you. It is a survival pattern repeating itself. You are trying to get something meaningful from a place that cannot provide it. The narcissist is not your soulmate. They are reflecting the parts of you that have not yet healed. They fit into the empty spaces left behind in your early life, but instead of filling them, they expand them even further. The moment you begin to see that this feeling of familiarity is actually a warning sign, something inside you starts to shift. You begin to understand that the anxiety in your body is not asking you to stay, it is urging you to leave. You realize that you have been holding on to hope, hoping that suffering now will somehow rewrite what happened in the past. If you have ever felt your body hold on to someone who was hurting you, that moment of recognition is powerful. It is when your system begins to separate fear from love. In the next stage, something deeper begins to happen. When your nervous system stops confusing fear with love, it creates a shift that changes everything. Awakening starts when your survival instinct no longer protects the narcissist, but begins to protect you instead. This shift changes the entire structure of the relationship. Many people believe that the narcissist wants to completely destroy you. While they do drain your energy, they actually depend on your ability to function. They do not want you completely broken because then you would no longer serve their needs. They want you in a state where you can still give to them, but do not have the strength to leave. The narcissist makes a critical mistake. They underestimate the endurance they once depended on. They believe that because you have stayed for so long, you will always stay. But for the type of person who survives, there is a point where everything changes. There is a moment when the survival mechanism shifts direction. This is the moment of awakening, and it often arrives quietly, without warning or drama. It may happen during an ordinary moment. You are driving home after another argument, and suddenly you feel a deep, silent exhaustion. Not emotional, not dramatic, just a calm awareness rising inside you. A simple truth forms clearly. I cannot continue like this. Awakening rarely feels intense. It feels obvious, almost like something you always knew but never accepted. It does not happen during shouting or conflict. It happens in stillness, when everything becomes clear without effort. You may look at them one day, perhaps while they are sleeping, and instead of feeling love or anxiety, you feel nothing. The person who once controlled your emotional state now appears small and ordinary. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of becoming your true self. This often requires the breakdown of the false identity you have been living. The relationship with the narcissist forces this breakdown. You have tried everything. You tried to be perfect, to be understanding, to be supportive, to be everything they needed. You are not broken. You are exhausted from carrying something that was never yours. You are tired of trying to fix someone who does not want to change. You are tired of ignoring your own intuition. And when you finally say to yourself that you cannot live like this anymore, you are not giving up. You are taking your power back. You are recognizing that the relationship has taken more from you than it has ever given. When these direct methods fail, the situation often shifts into something more indirect. The conflict moves from a private space into a public one. When they realize they cannot control you directly, they begin trying to control how others see you. One of the main ways they do this is through triangulation. They involve another person to create jealousy or insecurity in you. This could be a new partner, an old partner, or even someone from their social circle. They may talk about how this person understands them better than you ever did. The most powerful response is to remain grounded and continue living with integrity. The people who truly know you will recognize your character over time. Those who believe the false stories without question were not truly aligned with you. Truth does not require constant defense. It reveals itself through consistency and time. As you stop reacting to both direct and indirect tactics, you reach a deeper level of freedom. You no longer depend on their validation or the opinions of those influenced by them. The narcissist relies on external reactions to maintain their sense of identity. Without your engagement, they begin to lose that structure. They are forced to face the reality that their methods no longer work. Your awareness becomes the very thing that destabilizes them. You are not trying to win anymore. You are simply choosing not to play. And for them, being ignored is something they struggle to handle deeply. This shift can only happen with someone who understands them well enough to see through every layer of behavior. To maintain this state, you simplify your responses. You do not provide detailed explanations or emotional reactions. You respond with calm, simple statements and keep your deeper thoughts private. When they attempt to provoke you, you do not engage. When they ask questions meant to pull you in, you give minimal answers. You stop sharing your plans, your feelings, and your personal reflections. You protect your inner world as something valuable. This shift often causes them to become suspicious. Because they project their own behavior, they may accuse you of things they would do themselves. They may question your silence or demand explanations. But their concern is not about understanding you. It is about regaining control. They are trying to trigger a reaction, any reaction, to confirm they still have influence. But you remain steady. You do not give them what they are seeking. Silence is not only powerful against them, it is also essential for your healing. For a long time, your thoughts were filled with their voice. You replayed conversations, analyzed their actions, and imagined future interactions. Even when you were quiet externally, your mind was still engaged with them. True silence means stopping that internal dialogue as well. It means bringing your attention back to your own life, your own thoughts, and your own direction. This is where you begin reconnecting with yourself. You start remembering who you were before the relationship. You reconnect with your own values, interests, and identity. The energy you once gave to them begins returning to you. This process may feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilt or question your actions. They may accuse you of being cold or distant, but protecting your mental space is not wrong. It is necessary. The strongest response is no response at all. You protect your space and do not reopen communication. You understand that even small engagement can pull you back into the pattern. You accept that closure does not come from them. It comes from your own understanding. You acknowledge what happened, you accept the truth, and you move forward without needing their validation. You do not need their agreement to confirm what you lived through was real. You begin to trust your own experience without needing them to admit anything. This quiet decision becomes one of the most powerful steps you take. You are no longer asking for permission to believe yourself. You are no longer waiting for them to understand or accept your truth. You simply know it. Leaving without one final argument is not weakness, it is control. It is a calm and clear statement that you are done giving your energy to something that only drains you. This is where your independence truly begins to take shape from within. You leave them with the results of their own actions, but you do not stay to witness what happens next. You do not search for updates about them or try to see if they have changed. You do not ask others about their life. You understand that their path is no longer connected to yours. That chapter has closed. Instead of looking back, you turn your focus forward. You walk toward your own future with intention. They remain where they are, repeating the same patterns with someone else, while you move forward into something new. This is where your freedom becomes real and visible in your daily life. This is the moment when the narcissist begins to understand something they never expected. The only person who could truly survive them is the one who eventually walks away. From the beginning, we questioned why only one type of person makes it through this kind of experience. The journey revealed how early wounds made you vulnerable, how emotional patterns kept you attached, and how awareness slowly created distance. It all leads to this point. So who is the survivor in all of this? The answer is simple, but it may feel unfamiliar at first. It is you, but not the version of you that stayed stuck in the past. Surviving a narcissistic relationship involves understanding the dynamics at play on both a psychological and emotional level. A narcissist is not just self-centered. Their behavior stems from deep insecurity, shame, and fear of abandonment. They rely on others to validate their sense of self, manipulate emotions through guilt, fear, or charm, and project their own flaws onto others. Alternating between affection and cruelty, they create a psychological pattern called intermittent reinforcement, which makes you unconsciously addicted to the chaos. Jung described this as projection of the shadow, where the narcissist cannot face their inner fears and instead reflects them onto others. Certain people are more likely to be targeted, usually those with strong empathy, a desire for approval, or a history of unresolved trauma. Their tolerance for chaos does not signify weakness. It is what allows them to eventually survive and rise above the relationship. The cycle of a narcissistic relationship begins with idealization, where charm and love bombing secure attachment, followed by devaluation, where small criticisms and gaslighting erode confidence, and discard, where abrupt withdrawal asserts control. The cycle often includes hoovering, attempts to reel the person back in with charm or guilt. These patterns create a biochemical addiction in the brain, where dopamine spikes during affection and cortisol spikes during conflict, making chaos feel like a form of emotional engagement. Breaking free requires a shift from reacting to proactively reclaiming autonomy. Emotional containment, psychic withdrawal, the gray rock method, and silent detachment are critical. Remaining neutral, disengaging from arguments, and withdrawing attention deprives the narcissist of the energy or supply they rely on to control you. Healing and self-reclamation begin after leaving, as you reconnect with your own values, intuition, and desires. Breaking the biochemical addiction to the relationship allows you to establish healthy boundaries, protect your emotional space, and integrate the lessons learned from the experience. The survivor is not just someone who leaves, but someone who sees the narcissist clearly and refuses to idealize them. They break free internally before acting externally, using silence and neutrality as tools to reclaim their energy and autonomy. By observing the patterns instead of reacting, they disarm the narcissist and prevent further manipulation. Survivors rebuild their sense of self, reconnect with their intuition, and establish boundaries that the narcissist cannot cross. Through this process, they achieve individuation, becoming fully themselves, independent from the projections and illusions of the narcissist. The strength that allowed them to endure the relationship becomes the foundation for a life rooted in self-worth, emotional freedom, and joy. This clarity allows the survivor to walk away with calm certainty, no longer waiting for validation, no longer participating in the cycle, and fully stepping into their own life. Now is the time to build something different, a life that is not based on survival, but on peace and fulfillment. You were never meant to struggle for love or lose yourself to keep it. You were meant to experience connection in a way that supports you, not drains you. But before you could find that, you had to find yourself first. And now that you are beginning to do that, everything else starts to shift slowly into place. Your life begins to open in ways it could not before. If you feel ready to move forward, understand that this is just the beginning of your path. There is more growth ahead, more clarity, and more peace waiting for you. The journey toward becoming fully yourself has already started. And from here, each step you take is one that belongs entirely to you. In the end, this journey is not about the narcissist. It is about you. It is about understanding why you were drawn into the pattern, why you stayed, and how you found the strength to break free from it. You were not chosen because you were weak. You were chosen because you had the capacity to endure, to adapt, and ultimately to transform. What once kept you stuck becomes the very force that sets you free. You learned that what felt like love was often a reflection of old patterns, not true connection. You learned that your empathy, your patience, and your loyalty need boundaries to remain healthy. You learned that silence, awareness, and self-respect are more powerful than any argument. And most importantly, you learned that your reality does not need validation from anyone else. Walking away was not a loss. It was a return to yourself. It was the moment you chose clarity over confusion, peace over chaos, and truth over illusion. You stopped trying to fix what was never yours to fix, and you started building a life that is grounded in your own worth. The survivor is not someone who simply endured. The survivor is someone who awakened, who saw clearly, and who chose differently. That is who you are becoming. And from this point forward, Your life is no longer about surviving patterns from the past, but about creating something real, stable, and truly your own.